And this limitation is further exacerbated due to the proximity of the septic tank, the septic field, the driveway, and the residence that is actually on the property. And what's important to note is that their access to the water of this, if this variance is granted, their access to the waterfront would not change at all. The variance would simply allow them to build out to the setback line if granted a full 10-yard variance, or excuse me, 10-foot variance. So as a result of what I briefly described, the property is suffering from hardship resulting from the placement of these existing systems, and it's not in nature, or it's not due in part by the applicant. The applicant purchased this property on April 14th, 2016, and the earliest plat recorded for this property is actually 1960, well before countywide zoning was adopted in 1999 and 2000. And at that time, subdividers were just not thinking of what would happen with subdivision and zoning ordinances, especially in a place that didn't already have zoning ordinances. So I would like to remind the Board of Adjustments that this case is not without precedence. In 2017, variance case 6 by Mr. Eifert was also granted for the same purposes because the property was peculiar in nature, and the rear setback line does not conform with the high water mark, which it just sometimes occurred when these properties were subdivided at the time. So, catch up. The existing, I'm going to briefly review the staff findings. The existing parcel features a unique rear property line for lakefront properties on Lake Tillery. In this particular case, the rear property line is not the high water mark, as I mentioned before. As a standard in any other subdivision on Lake Tillery, Attachment 3, the site plan, illustrates that the property is constrained in nature as due in part by the way the property was subdivided. The lot is characterized by topography issues as well as an existing grandfathered septic system furthering the, further limiting the outbuilding's location. The variance request will not change the zoning of the property or allow any use not permitted in the residential 1 district. As mentioned before, there's currently a residence on the property that's going to maintain, that residence will be maintained as the primary use. And staff finding was made prior to any presentation of the applicant or property owner, who you will hear from in a second. It is also the responsibility of the property owner or applicant to submit sufficient evidence to meet the 6 required policy guidelines as noted in Article 6, Section 3.2, which staff does believe have been met. Staff would recommend on this particular case, if you look at the site plan, you will see that there's currently a deck. That deck currently encroaches about 7.7 feet onto the property line, or onto the rear setback. And so staff recommends that you preserve 2 feet of the rear setback if you were to grant this variance. This would allow no expansion of that deck to occur, because if this variance is granted, this variance is applied similar to the rezoning. This variance is applied to all future uses of the property. It's a permanent affix to the property. So that's also staff's recommendation. And Mr. Willis?
My name is Todd Willis, longtime resident of Troy, address 626 East Main Street. Yeah, we were hoping to get this variance made because of the uniqueness of this property. No need me to elaborate on the situation that he's already explained, but due to the limitations we have in the space, And the uniqueness of the high water mark being not the actual line, it's actually an older property line that it represents Duke's line and not the high water mark. It holds us uniquely farther back from the water, which is, you know, we're just looking to be able to use more of that property to replace the buildings that are already existing.
Anyone have
I'd
any
be-
questions?
I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this? Hearing none, so I guess we will close the public comment for the hearing. I have a motion to close it and to reconvene our regular scheduled meeting.
I'll make a motion to close the public comment period.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second's been made by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So I'm not sure now, do we need to do those,
For the record, the board is sitting as the Board of Adjustments.
Correct.
I said the wrong thing. I said the Board of E&R.
so it's
Adjustments.
the Board of Adjustments?
Yes.
But you do need to make a motion for action on the variance request.
So do I need to have a motion to approve, I guess? Is it approve, or are we just?
Approve.
Yeah,
Yep.
can I say something? So let me just review, the applicant would like a 10-foot rear yard setback variance. Staff is recommending an 8-foot rear yard setback variance be granted. So, I just wanted to.
So
be clear
change
on-
it from 10 foot to 8 foot?
Yeah, so staff is recommending to preserve 2 feet of the rear foot, or of the rear yard setback, right? And then in doing such, you would be granting an 8-foot rear yard setback. The applicant would like a 10-foot rear yard setback, so.
So what's the pleasure of the board? Do you want to go with the wishes of the
And
plan?
David, could you explain one more time why your recommendation is 8? I heard you talk about it, but
Yeah.
because it's preserving for what reason? Tell us that again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you look at attachment 3,
Mhm.
the site plan, you'll notice that the deck of the property, or that currently resides on the property, currently, what's the word? Just breaches the setback, the rear setback. So, if you grant an 8-foot rear yard setback, that deck cannot be expanded, pushing against the rest of the property line, so he can't add 2 additional feet, essentially.
Got you.
He would have to maintain it in the current building footprint, but I want to be very clear, that's not what's being proposed here. It's just a measure to retain the property's existing use.
So do we need to say that we want 8 foot instead of 10
Yeah. If that's your,
wishes?
yeah.
Is there any discussion on that?
I have a question. Is the current structure that's being rebuilt, is it in place now to be torn down and replaced?
That's a great question. So yes, it is currently there. If you'll actually look at I believe it's attachment 5, the septic card, you'll notice that the outbuilding is currently there in the septic card dated 1983. The applicant would like to rebuild that outbuilding in a comparable size. In doing so, the applicant needs to seek a variance because the applicant would be deconstructing a non-conforming use that's grandfathered in. The county cannot allow non-conforming uses to be rebuilt in a sense. And so in doing so, the applicant would need to seek a variance to rebuild the outbuilding. So that, in essence, that's the purpose of this variance, is to rebuild the outbuilding.
So if he had a fire and it burnt down, he would not be able to do it under the current,
That's correct.
correct? So
Is it the same size now? Is it already built in encroachment?
Yeah, it's already built in encroachment and it would retain comparable size, so. It may, under further examination of, say for instance, the environmental health director, he may recommend that it be pushed just a minimal distance closer to the setback, but that would certainly be satisfied in an 8-foot setback. Or 8-foot variance.
Got it.
So is everybody good and confused?
No, I think I have it, makes sense. So the 8-foot keeps them from expanding other parts of the existing footprint that they would have ability to if we approved a 10-foot variance, because the deck currently sits within the 8-foot. If we gave 10-foot, then they could expand. So that just opens that up, so that takes it beyond just dealing with the existing building. So if we approve an 8-foot, then they can rebuild the building,
Not
maybe
good,
not exactly,
not good as a 10.
yeah. And then that doesn't change the guidelines of being able to do other things to that footprint.
Well, would someone like to make a motion then that we change the 10 to 8 foot and approve the variance? Someone like to make that motion?
I would make a motion that we approve VR-1-2021 at an 8-foot setback adjustment.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dawson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that all we do on that one? We don't have those,
No, you're
You
good.
have to, the very last line there, motion to adjourn Board of Adjustments, and then you have to go back as the Board of County Commissioners.
do I have a motion that we adjourn for the,
Motion to adjourn Board of Adjustments and reconvene as Board of Commissioners.
motion's been made by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second's been made by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So, now we need to vote on it now to approve it? Is that what, or we need?
We're done.
We're done.
We're done.
Okay. I love those things. Need more of them. So the next item is the staff report.
County Manager's
Manager's report.
Managers.
What? I'm sorry?
County Manager.
County manager? I'm listening.
See all that
On my,
stuff?
on my part, I see it's the county manager's report, and then it's got
He's got a bunch of
Halter
stuff
Yeah.
to talk
Yeah,
about.
lots
So
of stuff.
anyway,
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are several things underneath the county manager's report, some of which would require action by the Board of Commissioners and/or discussion. At the last Board of Commissioners meeting, we discussed a consideration of whether or not to offer the property at the Hawthorne Retreat, which is owned by Montgomery County, with a couple of parcels owned by Pfeiffer University, through some sort of legally approved means of public sale, auction, or sealed bid, or upset bid, et cetera. At that time, there were some speakers who came and who indicated they were not sure, they felt that the county might not have a legal right to sell the property. And they also hoped that it could continue to be used as a retreat or camp type property for tourism. At that time, the Board of Commissioners asked staff to do a couple things. One, to get a legal opinion from the county attorney, which we have, and disclosed in your agenda package, that there are no limitations in terms of the Board of Commissioners' right to declare the property surplus and to sell it if you want to do so. The property is owned by the county, and there are no reasons why you could not sell that if in fact you choose to do so. The Board of Commissioners also asked that we develop some cost estimates as to what it would take to repair the existing deficiencies at the Haldewanger Center. I think you were advised that there haven't been a whole lot of repairs or improvements to the facility in a number of years. And so Kevin McNeil, the county's facilities manager, he developed this. I think he was very thorough, He looked at utility costs, had a contractor look at the property to see what it needed right away, and then he tried to come up with an estimate over time of operational, each year, what would be your maintenance cost and your upkeep cost and so forth. And those are included in your agenda package as well. So I think we provided the information the Board of County Commissioners requested, Mr. Chairman. If there are questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those if I can.
Does anyone have any questions?
So, Mr. Allen, current expenses, I mean, I see our operating expenses, what the potential is, and obviously all the repair pieces. But currently, we pay the electrical cost, all of that is, I don't think we probably have, do we have lawn maintenance and all of those things that happen currently?
We're not doing really anything at all. right
Other than
now.
electricity, just to keep the lights on, okay. All right. And then also, I know you sent us, you may be speaking to this in a moment, but revenue.
I did send out an email today. I had an inquiry as to what did the county receive as revenue when it was leased to Uwharrie Cabin Rentals. And that was leased for a period of about 5 years from the county to Uwharrie Cabin Rentals from fiscal year 2016 to fiscal year 2019, that 4-year period. Mr. Krebs, the finance director, advised me that your revenue came in at just a little under $10,000 a year, $10,000 annually. In the last year of that lease, which was 2020, you received $7,500, I believe, or maybe it's $5,700 in that final year. But those are the revenues that you received.
And so that would have been from July of 2019 through March of 2020, is that correct?
Yes,
When
ma'am.
the lease was terminated? Okay.
Do we feel like that we have enough information to vote on it tonight, or do you
Well-
still think we need to?
Well, I think the things that, I mean, obviously, it's not costing us excessive amounts of money currently. So I know we had a young lady this evening, you know, to bring up the fact of potentially a nonprofit. Now, you know, obviously, it can't be an expense to the county. I think those are the things that we have to look at. There's some pretty hefty dollars that would have to be spent on this property just to make the needed repairs and improvements. And then, of course, things over years as mechanical systems and roofing systems and stuff decline. I don't know that as a county, we're in the business of running rental property such as that. So I don't know if that would be something that, and Colleen, I don't remember your last name. McDaniel. So if that is something that in a timely manner, that potentially you could get back to the board to say this is what we envision, but this is a property we're gonna have to act on pretty soon. But I don't believe we have the ability to keep it as a property ourselves, that we have to upkeep the cost of it. I don't, you know, obviously you've heard the operating cost versus what revenue's been brought in by it. So it's, even though I value the property, I've used it many times myself. So it's a beautiful facility. And it would be great if it could be utilized as a retreat, but how do you make that happen with some private entity or a nonprofit? That's up to you guys. Can I ask that question? Is how quickly do you think you could, based on what you brought to us tonight as an idea, is that something that is truly something that could move quickly?
I believe it is. You know, I have formed a nonprofit organization before, and I've worked with them, I kind of envisioned it as leasing the property, but then it would be back kind of
Yeah.
where you are right now as you would hold it. But I would love to explore other opportunities, any kind of other arrangement. And probably here isn't the place to talk about those things, but maybe it is.
No.
So if I could get in touch with somebody with the county that would sit down with me and let me know what they envision, I can, we can just look at the options.
I think that's up to us, right? Whether we want to, again, I will state myself, I don't want to be in the
Rental business?
in the rental business, right? We don't have that ability in this property. As awesome as it is definitely, it's gonna take some dollars to get it to where it needs to be, and then from a maintenance standpoint, that's not something that the county can take on. So if there was potentially, there was some type of, I don't even know that I see it as a lease agreement, that, I would want a nonprofit to potentially purchase it and run with it and have ownership of it versus it staying in the county possession.
Right, because we're still going to spend a lot of money as the owner for upkeep, even with a lease agreement, and it's quite substantial, I would think, based on what we looked at with revenue from URI Rentals in that 4-year span.
And my understanding, that's why URI Rentals no longer utilizes the property, just because of the cost, the maintenance cost, the upkeep cost. It just wasn't viable for them to do that any longer.
I guess the only thought I had was like if they could get involved with the high school in their carpentry program and plumbing and all that, if there was some way for the nonprofit, I don't know. That's
I know, yeah.
That's something I don't think that we want to adventure down either, but
If I could,
Yeah.
a business model that I've kind of been working on, that business it's not a moneymaker, but it would be able to, take on the expenses of all of the utilities, all of the maintenance, and, at a small percentage of profit would be able to, afford to pay, the county something. So, in my business model, the nonprofit would be taking on all of the expenses, and based on what the profit margin is, the county would be getting some money from that. But that's in the scenario that it's leased at a very good rate.
Right.
Over, based on profit margin.
But we would still have to have the owner, still keep ownership of the property. Comments from anybody else?
But certainly purchasing as a nonprofit organization would be a good opportunity as well.
just want to table it to next month and see what she comes back with on. How's everybody feel?
I don't know.
I would say table it.
Table it and come back next month? That sound okay with everybody?
That's okay.
Are we okay if we consider this next month?
Oh,
Are we
yes, sir.
good?
There's no deadline, it's at the discretion of the board.
There is no electricity on up there now, is there?
I don't know if they're keeping a minimum on or not, Robinson, I'm not sure.
Mr. Allen, I asked, because I know it's a key code entry, and I know that Kenny Allen and Chris Cagle has that code. So as a county property, I'm not sure if maybe that should be changed now that it's not used as a rent, because I don't know who, I know those two people do because they've told me, but potentially maybe we need to.
Sure, there may be other people that have that code. as well.
There may be, I don't know, I don't ever go down to that, I haven't been down to that
We can
property
ask
in
Mr.
quite a,
McNeil to change
to
that.
see how would you guys agree with that? But I'm sure because of past use, that's how it was utilized, but now that, Mr. Allen, URI Cabins is not utilizing the property any longer, we should. All right, so,
We will need a motion to, I guess, hold off table it till we hear something.
I don't even know that it was a decisioning thing
Same.
tonight, so I think we're,
You just lay it over
Yeah.
to the next meeting.
we'll just
Just let,
move to next meeting.
that sounds great to me. I guess the next item in is East and West High School campuses transfer to the Montgomery County.
Yes, sir. There was a rumor in the community that perhaps there was some demolition activities going on at East Montgomery High School. And so I reached out to Montgomery County Schools to ask about that, and they confirmed that no, that wasn't correct in terms of a demolition. And then I've laid out in the memo that some things have been undertaken to be removed from that. It's my understanding that there was an arrangement, and we're not sure. Misty and I were told there might be something in writing, but we haven't been able to find that yet in terms of an agreement between the county and the schools as to timetable for turnover of the properties to the county and what they would be used for. But I reached out, or the superintendent, Dr. Ellis, reached out to me, and he has said that obviously they want to be in a cooperative relationship with the Board of Commissioners, and that rather than waiting a longer period of time, that they would be able to move ahead to turn those properties over to the county within 90 days, and that if the Board of Commissioners was ready for that to occur, that he would initiate the surveys and legal things that would happen. There are a few properties, and I'll just point that out, at East Montgomery, that they plan to retain the auditorium because that's in use by the middle school. And I think there are a couple of houses that were used for principals that are there. They have planned to retain those as well with the Board of Education ownership. But the rest of the property, they would be prepared to transfer to the county whenever y'all are ready for them to do so.
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Because based on the statement you just made, that they indicated that MCS has arrangements for use of the auditorium and 2 principal houses, I know that they also stated that, you know, they were under the assumption that this would be demoed, right? Because of the presentation that you included in our packet, the master plan for the Montgomery County Industrial Park. However, if you look at page 160 of our packet, it shows the full project outline. So what this industrial park, if we move forward with that approach, if that's what we chose to do, it includes the auditorium, all buildings. And actually, I said in the presentation, when they made this whole presentation, as well as in every scenario, if you look at page 172 of our packet, our packet, but is also this, I had to get to it so I can read it. Sorry about my little snotty nose tonight, too. It talks about, of all the buildings that would be torn down, so it would be demoed. However, the existing freestanding auditorium building is preserved for reuse as a leasing center, training center, or orientation center. And they did speak about that in the presentation, that they would demo all buildings with the exception of that one because it was built in the 1990s and it's in good shape. And every of the 5 scenario concept plans, that structure is still there, and it shows the use that it would be for. Like in one, it's a training facility, in one, it's a leasing office. So therefore, it shows that in this whole plan, Montgomery County Schools did not have the plan to maintain the auditorium nor the 2 buildings that they're speaking to. So that would be my only question, because if we move forward with this approach, it would take all of that property. We would need to utilize that. So we would be cutting our nose off to spite our face to go forward with having it surveyed out and keeping that with the school system, because we would not be able to move forward with this industrial park or anything else we may, opt to. So I would push back and say, hey, the original intent was the whole school property was coming back to the county. So I'm a little confused. It contradicts even the plan that.
No, I think you're exactly right. That is what's shown in the economic development plan. I guess the schools, I guess I shouldn't speak for them, but I think they're thinking, well, if the property's going to be used for something else, and the entire tract didn't need for economic development, then we have a use for this. So that would
I don't think we know what the plan is yet. We've not even addressed that currently. I think there are things that could potentially be on the plate, options, but that's just it. We want options, but we need the facility to be able to move forward with even considering those options.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. You sort of need to know what you're doing before you start calling out.
Absolutely.
And that would be a matter of negotiation between the county and the school system.
Do we know what's currently in the memorandum of understanding when that was transferring back? Do we have that? I would think there is a contract document, memorandum of understanding, that talks about, I know that it was a contract through December 31st of this year, that it would have to transfer back to the county. At least that's my understanding from a member of the school board.
That is something I will have to locate. I have not put my hands on either document, so
Yeah.
I'm really unsure at this
I know, I would think there would be something out there that was part of what the agreement looks like, how it comes back. And obviously, as a board, we want to work totally, in partnership with the school board, the school system. But, we're gonna have to look at what makes sense with these properties, this one and West eventually. But I don't want to be handcuffed by saying, hey, we're gonna cut out part of this property for school use. How did they even get over, that would be challenging.
And I think the school board will be willing to work with whatever timeframe,
Yeah.
reasonable timeframe. I think their concern was if the Board of Commissioners is concerned about the properties, they would rather have an accelerated turnover than an
Right,
open.
right. Any other comments?
Yeah, I don't know if we can talk about that during our budget session when we have the superintendent there, so we can,
Absolutely. We're planning for him to come in March when you have your presentation. He'll be here, and so absolutely, that would be a good time to discuss that, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, because
And we are going to look for that agreement. I actually just heard about that agreement today, and so Misty started looking for it, and we haven't found it yet.
Okay.
So, and if we can't find it on our end, we'll reach out to the school system to see if
see if they have.
What I understand, it was early 2017, so I'll have to dig back in the records and search for it tomorrow.
And I will state too, just looking at the meeting minutes, when this project first began, April 21st of 2020. So this was, the minutes from this initial, when they began to do this, and this is also in the presentation packet. It did say that it was, and this is on page 179 of our packet, planned to remove the school buildings because there's a concern that the local government will want to use them if they are retained. So it's just an odd statement to be put in our initial meeting with the Economic Development Partnership as they began this journey to put this packet together. So it looks as if all building, we're looking at being done away with.
So from what I'm hearing, we want to, I guess, table this one. too.
Yeah.
Table it is. The next item is the appointments to the planning board. From Commissioner Hassel, do you have someone that you would like to appoint?
Yes, Chairman, I do. I would like to appoint Brian Reynolds to the planning board, and he is actually present here tonight.
Who'd she say?
Brian?
Brian.
Brian Reynolds.
Right. Okay. So a motion's been made by Commissioner Hassel to appoint Brian Hassel.
Brian Reynolds.
Brian Reynolds.
Brian
Brian
Reynolds.
Reynolds. I will second that.
Sorry about that, Brian Reynolds. Sorry about that, Brian.
I will second that.
Second by Commissioner Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Sorry about that. Next appointment is for the planning board from Commissioner Kay Robinson.
Yes, I would like to appoint Navon Moore, who is currently serving.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Robinson to appoint Navon Robinson.
Moore.
Navon Moore.
Moore.
Navon Moore, what the heck? We're gonna appoint Navon Moore too. It's getting late, y'all are keeping me too late. Anyway, Commissioner Robinson has Navon Moore. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second been made by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Those were tough. The next is appointments to the Health Advisory Committee. And I think y'all were talking earlier maybe about the commissioner's representative.
Mhm.
Commissioner Hassel would like to serve on that. Is that-
Yes.
So can I get a motion to appoint?
I will make a motion that we appoint Commissioner Haskell to the Health Advisory Committee as our commissioner representative.
A motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson. Do I have a second?
I second.
seconded by Commissioner K. Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I actually think there's a number of things you want to talk about on the health.
There are some other vacancies, as you see on that board, Mr. Chairman, that fulfill certain requirements of the statute. There's a vacant citizen position, a vacant public utility or engineering, and a vacant healthcare provider. Ms. Perez sent this up to us this past week just to make the board commissioners aware there are these vacancies, and it's at your discretion to appoint these. You may not have names yet, but if not, this can be put on the next agenda for appointment. And it sounds like, I was unaware of the presentation tonight that there are going to be a number of vacancies coming up apparently in June. So that's something we want to be thinking about as well. The chairman also mentioned that we'd like to consider setting a meeting time for them to meet as a separate group. That really is sort of, in my mind, what the statute contemplated when it allowed the combined boards of health, that it contemplated that this advisory board would need to make recommendations and suggestions. So I think what she suggested is aligned with, probably what was intended initially.
So we do have one person here this evening that we would like to appoint to the Health Advisory Board, and that would be Rhonda Wright,
Ron?
sitting in the back, and Rhonda would fill the vacant position of a healthcare provider. Rhonda does reside within the county, which is a requirement, and she is a nurse practitioner. I never get it right, physician's assistant, nurse practitioner. So I would like to make a nomination that we approve Rhonda Wright to our Health Advisory Committee.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson to approve Rhonda Wright, not Rhonda Dawson.
That's
this time.
right.
Rhonda Wright this time. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I guess we can put the public utilities / engineer one off to see if we can find someone.
And we have a citizen vacant as well. And then we need to find out if Cindy Taylor still wants to serve on the board now that she's on the school board. She's not been at any meetings, so I don't know. So that might be something we need to just follow up with her. But then we have lots to look forward.
The next item then is the appointments to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Mr. Jamie Kearney, Commissioner Hassel, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next one is Jeff Branch for slot 25. Do I have a motion that we approve him?
I make a motion that we accept Jeff Branch, slot 25.
Is this just Montgomery or what? Because Jeff doesn't live in Montgomery County. Does it have to be a Montgomery County resident?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think
I do
so.
not know the answer to that.
If I may speak, as a former chairman of the BOCC, it does not have to be a resident.
A resident, it can be?
Okay.
Okay. I have no clue, but motion's been made by
Thank you, Chrissy.
Commissioner K. Robinson to appoint Mr. Branch. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next one is a commissioner appointment for slot 11.
I would like to make a nomination for Ms. Kay Robinson to fill that position.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson to appoint Commissioner K. Robinson to that slot. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second's been made by Commissioner Hassel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Whew, man, this is tough. County reports.
Mr. Chairman, those are enclosed in your agenda package, and I will try to answer any questions. If you have any, hopefully you don't have any questions. If I can't answer them tonight, we'll get an answer for you. And then I'd also like to say, this will be my last meeting with the Board of Commissioners. Your very capable new full-time manager will be coming on board next Thursday, and I'll be with him for a couple days to assist with some orientation and so forth. But otherwise, I appreciate the opportunity to serve here in Montgomery County. I've definitely enjoyed working with staff here. You've got some very fine folks on staff, and so thank you for the opportunity.
We would like to thank you.
Thank you for
Yes.
stepping in and
Yeah.
helping us out there.
As you said before, I think it was a little more than just steering it down the road. I think it's,
Maybe a
What-
little more than I was,
What you were thinking.
Told was involved, but it turned out okay.
well, we sure do appreciate it, and
We gotta do your amendment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh,
My
come on
amendment
now.
to
We
our-
could- we could
Thank
got-
you, I know. Lord Dottie, I even was the one who did it.
Well, I thought,
But
we got another nice email just before I came back.
Oh, I've got umpteen zillion. So the amendment to our agenda was around the fact that Baden Business Park LLC is requesting a special order of consent from the North Carolina Environmental Management Commission in order to deal with some potential contamination issues, right? So I don't know all of the detail. I think Mr. Allen can probably share a little bit because he made some calls yesterday. So can you give the board a little bit of insight?
Be happy to. So, this actually, when Ms. Dawson contacted me to ask me about that, and then Ms. Robinson contacted me as well, because she had been giving me some contacts from residents. I told Ms. Dawson and Ms. Robinson that this had begun to be a little bit of discussion in Stanley County as well, and there actually, I was not aware until Ms. Robinson told me, but an online article, or lengthy online article in the Stanley News and Press over the weekend about this. Essentially, this is the former Alcoa aluminum smelter that you probably are all familiar with in Baden. It's now been turned into a business park. And that site operated as an aluminum smelter for decades, since I think around 1917 was when it started. And over the years, in cleaning out the pot lines there for that facility, this was all prior to EPA and prior to NEPA and prior to all those things. You could pretty much do what you wanted to do. So when that material was cleaned out of those pot lines, it was landfill. And so cumulatively, there are, I guess thousands of tons of waste that have been landfilled there. And some of that material, in this case particularly fluoride and cyanide, are leaching into a creek there that flows into Baden Lake. And the business park has been unable to meet the environmental requirements for that, to meet the effluent limits for that. And so they are requesting or proposing to go into a special order by consent with the Department of Environmental Quality to allow them to change the piping for a certain area and put that into an area inside the lake itself, what they call a mixing area. And they're proposing, I guess, that if they do that, they can meet their limits. This has not been approved by the Department of Environmental Quality. They opened up public comments starting November 15th, and it's supposed to go until December 15th. However, I had an email conversation with a staff member who was working with this request yesterday, and she told me that the department is still considering requests, so that if the Board of County Commissioners would like to send a letter or make any requests, then they would still be open to receiving that. One thing that's being requested by some of the residents, I think, is that a public meeting take place where they can air their concerns and hear a presentation by the Department of Environmental Quality. So if that's something that the Board of Commissioners would like to request that a meeting be held, then that's certainly within your rights to do so, or any other action that you want to take. I mean, you guys, let me make it clear, the ultimate decision is the state's decision, but you guys have a right to express any concern or request any consideration from DEQ on that.
So I would like to make a motion that we do request a public hearing on this topic through the North Carolina Environmental Quality Commission, whatever they're called. That's what I would like to do, so that we do have the ability for them to come and present to us, as well as have public comment opportunity to really understand what's going on. So that's my motion.
I second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dawson to see about holding a public hearing.
Mhm.
Do I have a second from Commissioner Kay Robinson? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Does anyone else have anything?
You make that contact, Mr. Manager?
Yes, ma'am, I will. I will do that this week, absolutely.
Good.
I'd
Do we
just like-
need to, should we contact Stanley County to see if, commissioners there to see if they want to do a joint public hearing or just do one here?
Well, you guys actually won't hold the public hearing, DEQ will
Right.
hold the public hearing, so
Yeah.
they'll pick the location. I suspect that they will pick it on the Stanley
I
side,
bet so,
because
too.
that's where the discharge point is.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering if they would do it over there.
But I could reach out to Mr. Lucas, county manager, and let him know what action y'all are taking, and
Okay.
see if the
The more people we have there.
That's right. I agree. I agree.
And now we need to figure out how to respond, because the comment I got just before the meeting was, nobody's responded to all these emails we got.
Well, I know.
So we need to do some kind of response, just saying that we met and we're gonna ask for that, I guess.
I mean, that's perfectly in order, yes, ma'am.
So we need to divide up, y'all, so we're not all sending 20-something emails.
Well, absolutely. And some came to only one of us. Some came
I've
to
got a
all
list of the
of us.
names I got.
I did respond and basically said what Ray and I talked about was, that we're going to further look at it, and, once we find out something, then that's when I guess we need to recontact or send out an email telling everybody that we are gonna do this public hearing.
So could we, because Misty, you have access to all of our emails, could we compile a single email response to put them all in one email from all of us stating this is the action that we have taken, that staff is going to generate a request for public hearing, most likely in combination with Stanley County. We'll provide details once we hear back, but this is the action that we've taken. Could you do that for us?
Yes.
Perfect. That'll be an easy way to do it.
So you got all that right?
Yes, sir, we're good to go.
All right, thank you, because we do. We have lots and lots of emails. I'll put it out on social media too, so that but we definitely need it to go to those email addresses.
Well, I don't know if this board wants to sing happy birthday, but I would guess we could wish that Commissioner Dawson is had a birthday, so we would like
Yes.
to wish you a happy birthday. And
Thank
I
you.
almost let that slip on by.
It's been a pleasure spending my birthday with you guys tonight.
Well, we tried to
so-
make it as long as we could.
I know. It took every bit of time we had. Yeah. It's been wonderful.
But happy birthday, and
Thank
hope you
you.
have plenty more.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, if someone would like to make a motion that we adjourn and escape, it would be.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dottie Robinson. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hassel.
Hassel.
Have to look at you to see your name. All in favor?
Aye.